Everyone is saying AI is going to replace HR. I'm running a company where AI already does half the work of HR. And I think HR is more important than it's ever been, not less. I'm going to show you exactly how I use AI to do 3 things. Hire the right people faster, retain our key people for longer, and provide our employees with better support, all without firing a single HR person. In fact, the work HR does in my company is more strategic than ever. I'm going to show you the actual tools that I built and use every single day. So let's get straight into it. So quick background on me, I run a remote marketing agency. I've been running this agency for the last 6 years. We've hired over 56 people over the years, and I'm not some HR consultant. I'm an actual operator in the weeds. I've done all these jobs myself. I've hired people for these jobs. I've managed all these people, hired people in HR positions. So I've seen all sides of it. And if you're a founder, an operator, if you work in HR and you're fearing AI and you're wondering how can you stay more relevant in the AI era, then this video is exactly for you, because the way that I see this is that AI is not going to replace people and humans. And in fact, if you work in HR, you know for a fact that one of the most important things with your role is human relationships, and AI cannot do that. Now, running my own company, I got tired of 2 things. Hiring was extremely painful. And the second thing was being able to keep an accurate pulse on every single employee, even though everyone's remote and people are working across different departments with different responsibilities. And if you've ever been in the situation where you're trying to keep tabs on everyone, you realize that some people are disengaged, you find out late, or some people have too high workload and it kind of escalates into a bigger issue than it should have been, then those are the exact same problems that I've faced. And I've built tools internally to fix both the hiring problem that all companies go through. How do you hire great talent in record timing and not having to spend weeks going through a hiring process and spend a lot of time posting jobs and taking interviews with candidates who weren't the right fit anyway, making a wrong hiring decision, and it just wastes time and it stunts growth. Fixing that problem, and then also fixing the problem of effectively managing employees, even though everyone's remote, even though people are working across different departments. If you work in HR and you're managing people across different departments, then you also need to approach different people in different ways, right? And what I've built essentially gives you the data to be able to approach those one-to-one conversations and even the wider company-wide conversations when you're reporting to chief executives or whoever you're reporting to in your company. So I'm going to share both of those, and I'm going to share exactly what's working. And I think this is going to be extremely valuable whether you're working in HR, whether you're a founder, operator of a business, whatever. Okay, so let's take a step back for a second and let's see, what is AI actually good at? What is it better at than humans when it comes to HR functions? The first would be searching massive candidate pools. The second would be monitoring communication patterns at scale. And the third would be scoring engagement signals across hundreds of different data points. And you're going to see how this matters in a little bit into the video when I show you exactly what I've built for this. Now, when we think about what humans do better than AI, I would say that humans can make better judgment calls on decisions when it comes to people. And I would say that they are better at building relationships with other humans. And third, it would also be real conversations, right? Because people want to speak to people. If they have a problem, if they have a question, they want to come speak to a human. They don't want to go and speak to some AI. Now, let's start with hiring, because the old way of hiring, and what most people still do, is they need someone to fill a role, right? You need to hire someone. So you plan out the job description and maybe the job scorecard, and you put together all this planning, and then you post the jobs on Indeed, on LinkedIn, Upwork, wherever you're posting jobs. Then you review the applications, then you have interviews, then maybe you have some sort of test or something else to like some sort of skills assessment, and then you make a decision, right? So it's a very manual process, and even if you're using AI in some of those areas, it is helpful. And if you're not doing the recruiting internally, maybe you're paying a recruiting agency 20% of salary to place somebody for you. So it's either very time consuming or very expensive in terms of cost. So what I've done is I've built my own tool internally to essentially remove all of these bottlenecks and all of the traditional things related to hiring, right? So when it comes to cost and expenses, I don't pay any recruitment agencies to fill roles for me. I don't pay any job boards to post paid jobs. And when it comes to time and actually the time inputted into the whole application and the hiring process, I don't spend time manually searching candidates online. I don't take interviews with people who aren't the right fit. And essentially what I've done is I've streamlined this to the point where we get the highest quality candidates in our pipeline even before we need roles filled. What that means is that we have an always on hiring process. And this is something that has completely changed the way that we approach hiring, because another pain point, right? You need someone and then you start this process and 6 to 8 weeks later, you have your person. What if you just had to wait a few days, right? What if you needed someone and then it's like, okay, let's just check our candidate pipeline that we already have, that's already been running for the past few months. You have people who are there ready to interview, okay? So I'll show you what I built right here. So this is essentially a fully automated AI recruiting process. And what we do is we just start a new conversation, just like you would chat with Claude or you would chat with ChatGPT. And I'm going to say, I'm hiring a senior media buyer to run meta ads for my clients within my agency. They must have agency or e-commerce experience. And this is a full-time role starting ASAP, fully remote. And the starting salary is $4,000 to $5,000 per month. I am looking specifically in regions such as Latin America and South Africa. So I'll just dictate that in, send. And what this is going to do is it's actually going to start building out the job description. It's going to build out the scorecard. It's going to put a plan together as to how we can find these candidates and get candidates that match our spec specifically, right? If it has any clarifying questions, it's going to ask me within this chat. So you can see that the job has been created and it's assembling a plan. It's preparing the role brief. And essentially there's 7 different sections for this hiring plan. It says the job's in and the plan is assembling. You see it fill in above. The job description, the scoring rubric, the skills test, outreach cadence, LinkedIn matches, and per platform posts. All of this is automated, right? We built a candidate database where we can access pretty much anyone who is a good fit for this role. And what that's going to do is going to save us a ton of time, and it's only going to bring us the candidates that are actually a good fit. Of course, we have to put them through an application process to vet them, but that is also built into this platform. And I'm going to show you how that works right now. So we can see here that it's built out a full job description for me, just based on the information that I gave it. Now, all of this is editable. You can even just give it a job description that you've already made and it will just add it here for you. But it's included all like key responsibilities, requirements, nice to haves, compensation, how to apply, and it's even done a scoring criteria on the skills test. Now, we like to do a skills test for our candidates in our hiring process. It's also giving us a scoring and skills test with different scoring criteria. We like to have a skills test within our hiring process. If you don't, then you can just turn that off, right? We built this so that it can be customizable to your hiring process. So there's no like strict criteria here that you have to follow. We also have some instant matches. So within just a few minutes, it's already gone out and found people within the areas that we're looking for, and it's brought them back as these matches, right? So this person, for example, senior growth marketing manager, we can actually open their LinkedIn, we can draft a LinkedIn message. And the cool thing as well, it doesn't just find the candidates for us, but can actually reach out to them on our behalf. So if this platform finds an email that's related to this person's profile, it will actually draft up the email to that person and send it on your behalf. And it goes through your approval, so it doesn't just send out things randomly. But again, all of the contact, all of this communication is handled by the AI so that it is much, much faster for you to get qualified applicants in. It will reach out to them, and those that have been reached out to will move to this column. Then those who respond to the outreach will get automatically sent an application form. So again, this is something that can be customized to your needs. It is built by the AI, so it's using the job description and questions that we have asked candidates and questions that get you the right information to qualify and vet candidates. But again, you can change that form to whatever you want. Then when they come in the form, the AI will help you vet the candidates, but ultimately it's your decision on who you decide to interview. Once you have the interviews, then the AI will be able to transcript the interview, and it will give you a sentiment of that interview based on how well the candidate answered the questions, based on things like how well the candidate answered the questions and what you agreed to as next steps, okay? It will give you all that information in each candidate's profile. Then you send them a test. This is just our standard process. We send them a skills test to be able to say, okay, they're good on paper, they're good in the interview, but can they actually do the job on a very diluted level? And that's where the skills test comes in, and that's what we do to vet candidates before we actually give them an offer to join the company. So this is essentially the pipeline. So if we jump over to the outreach tab, you can see that we already have some sequence templates that have been created by the AI. It's 3 emails with the follow-up steps here. And essentially it has this already pre-written, okay? You can send a test and you can just see how that comes through. Then if we jump over to inquiries, we can see that we have an inquiry form. This is the application form, right? So if I were to copy this link and I was to open it in a new tab, you would see that this has been built for me. I didn't build this myself. The AI built it based on my role, and it asks for some questions: largest monthly meta ad budget managed, link to portfolio, preferred monthly rate, does your rate fit the 4 to 5K range, desired employment type, earliest available start date. And this is just like an initial application form. Again, you can modify this any way you want. And then if we jump over to offers, we'll see the people that we've actually given offers to, approve the shortlist, and eventually close out the job once we've hired someone. So that is how we are using AI in the hiring process to get get better candidates into our pipeline faster, not have to pay recruitment agencies, not have to pay these job boards, not have to have a bunch of different tools. Everything is in the same place. So if you're in HR and you want to make better hiring decisions, you want to fill roles faster, then I would highly recommend using this. There's actually a link down below. At the time of recording this, we're onboarding some beta testers, some design partners to come on, use the platform, give us feedback. If you're watching this some point in the future, then we probably have already launched and it will be live on the link down below. But yeah, go ahead, go to that link and we might be in waitlist. Join the waitlist if we are, and then I'll reach out to you to get you on board as a design partner. And if you are not in HR, if you're running a company, if you're an operator, if you're a founder, your CEO, this is also such a shortcut, because if you have a HR team, this is something that they should be using. If you don't have a HR team, this is basically your HR assistant, right? They're doing the hiring for you. You're just making some decisions, okay? So regardless of where you're working in the company, what your role is, I think this is such a game changer, and it's a no-brainer, right? Because every company needs better people, and you want to have a pipeline of candidates, because we've all been in a situation where someone leaves unexpectedly and we're like, okay, now we have to fill this role. But if you already have this pipeline built with this always on hiring process, then that's not a worry, right? You already have 3, 4, 5 people for the same role in the queue waiting to join. So now we've spoke about hiring, let's talk about employee retention and actually employee management and keeping a pulse on our employees and supporting them in the right way. Just because you bring great people into the company doesn't mean that your job ends there. If you work in HR, you know this very well. If you are not in HR and you're an operator, you lead a company, you lead a team, you also know this, right? There needs to be constant accountability. There needs to be monitoring on, is our team responding in time, right? Are they communicative? Are they engaging? Are they delivering projects on time? All these different things. Now, here was my pain point. We have people spread across the world, in South America, in Europe, in Southeast Asia, and what was happening was we were spread out remotely. If you go into an office and everyone's working in the same office, you can get a vibe and a pulse just on the energy, right? When everyone's working remotely on different time zones, people are working on different projects, different delivery times, then things get complex very quickly. Now, if you multiply this with 50 employees, 100 employees and beyond, it gets even more complex. So what I did was I built my own employee sentiment analysis tool. And what this does is it gives me a dashboard that looks exactly like this one on my screen. This isn't actually my employee data. This is a demo version because I'm not going to share my employee data openly. But this gives you exactly what it looks like. And essentially, it gives me these scores across workload, across engagement, quit risk, commitment, communication. And these scores update every single day. And the way that these scores are computed, the way that these scores are actually analyzed and get into this database is we monitor communication that is already public. Slack threads that I already have access to, no private communication. Email threads that I already have access to, again, no private communication. Meetings that are recorded, again, no private communication, right? This is within the company realm, and it's things that I would have access to anyway. The problem is, as a human, you cannot monitor all these data points. You cannot be on every single call. You cannot be in every single Slack thread knowing what's going on every single day of the week. So we use AI to help that, because AI is better than us at going through data, at doing sentiment analysis based on all these data points and putting them into a table like this so we can see, okay, who needs support right now, right? Who is like low engagement, who is at risk of leaving the company, right? We can actually open this and see attribution, because just because you have a score, well, that's great, but you need attribution. The reason why is because if someone is at risk of quitting the company, you want to know why, okay? And if you have attribution and saying, this is why this person is at risk of quitting the company, because they said this on a meeting, because the workload is too high and it's been too high for 3 months and they already raised it with you in a one-to-one. Like these sorts of things will show up in this attribution, okay? This just completely flips the model on its head, because usually you would have quarterly one-to-ones, maybe monthly one-to-ones. You would have these surveys. But what happens is you get the data too late. You get the data when it's already too late to make a decision and remedy an issue that's been happening underground for weeks, if not months, okay? These scores in the database, what it does is it gives you the data in real time, right? Every single day, you get updates on the data, not just in this dashboard, but it pushes the changes in these scores. If a score is moving in either direction quite aggressively, you will get a message in Slack from this platform, and it will say, hey, James's score on engagement is dropping every single day or even week over week, okay? What that's gonna do is it's gonna tell you, okay, I need to go and investigate. So you come into this platform And then again, you can get attribution. What's actually happening? What was said in meetings that you weren't on? What has been said in some Slack channels? If someone leaves a Slack channel, this is going to pick it up, okay? So very, very interesting data points here. And I think this is a must for anyone managing a remote team of employees, right? You need to be keeping a pulse on how everyone is doing across every moment of the day, right? Because you don't know whether someone's actually working or not until you actually go in and check in with them, okay? So this is what we built internally. Again, if you want access to this, it's in the link down below. We're also currently in waitlist, getting on some design partners. If you want to be the first to use this and try it out, now is the chance. In the future, when you're watching this again, we might be launched already, and we might have much higher pricing because of the demand. But yeah, I would say if you are interested in this, go and check it out right now. Join the waitlist, and I'll reach out to you, and we'll help you get set up to try it out for free. Okay, so one important point on this. This is not employee surveillance. I am against employee surveillance. I'm not about reading private messages and trying to catch employees out. That is not this, okay? As I mentioned, this is strictly public communication. It is things that I, as a leader, already have access to, okay? So this is not surveillance. We're not spying on our employees. And that is a very, very important point to get across. We're not screenshotting people's screens. We're not time tracking, okay? So if you're against employee surveillance, but you still want to keep a pulse on your team, then, there's no other tool like this, right? This is exactly what you need. And this is why I built it out internally for my own company. Now, the next question, does it actually work? Does it actually help? And I would say yes. We have increased employee retention, employee satisfaction. We are getting more out of our team. We are understanding when workload levels are rising out of control, and we can step in and solve those issues, whereas before, employees would come to us and say, the workload's too high, we need to change something, okay? First of all, it's given me a ton of peace of mind that I can actually manage the team effectively. Second, it's benefited the company beyond belief, right? Because the employees, now they know that I can see these data points. What it means for them is that they know that their workload is going to be protected. They're going to be cared for in the company even more, because if I see that they're at risk of quitting the company, then I want to investigate why, because I want them to stay, okay? And if the work conditions are not desirable and not ideal, then guess what? I have the data to go in and solve that. And if employees know that I have that data, it makes them feel good that in their job, they're going to be protected and they're going to be made a priority. So if you are working in HR, then you're probably looking at this dashboard and saying, wow, this is amazing. Let me plug this into my company and my team right now so you can better support your team, all right? And actually you can send better reports to the executives in the company to say, hey, this is exactly what's going on. And they're going to be like, wow, this is amazing, okay? Now, if you're not in HR, if you are leading a team, if you're in operations, if you're a chief executive, if you're team lead, manager, whatever, you're also probably thinking the same thing, right? You want this data on your team because it helps you manage better, right? It helps you do your job better. It doesn't replace you. It makes you more effective. And that is exactly why I built this, because I'm thinking of exactly the same thing. Okay, so those are two tools that I have built to make HR more effective in my company and not have to replace HR humans, right? And to recap, what we're doing is recruiting entirely with AI, apart from actually vetting and making the final decisions on the candidates. It's important that it is human-led, okay? Second thing is managing and keeping a pulse on our team, their engagement scores, their commitment, their communication, the risk of them quitting the company, because that allows us to support our team better. So if you zoom out for a second, what we're doing is we're acquiring and retaining employees, just like you would acquire and retain customers for your business. You need to do the same with your employees. And when you do that, it allows you to build a stronger team. You get better people in through the door, and you get better people staying at your company for longer. And the companies that make the biggest leaps in terms of growth year over year and can actually compound growth have a very good employee churn rate, meaning the churn of employees leaving the company is extremely low, because when an employee leaves the company, they take context with them. Context leaves with someone who walks out the door, especially in positions which are more executive, but also people on the ground just executing day by day, okay? So the way I look at this is it is very, very important not just to bring great people into the company and do that consistently, right? Every time you hire someone, it should be better than the last person. I'm all for that. But if you cannot retain your people, then you have a real problem, okay? And especially when you're coming up against these companies that pay very, very good salaries, right? If you're not in a position to pay someone 200K, 300K per year and give them crazy bonuses, then you need to be able to support your team in other ways. And this is extremely, extremely important to think about because we always focus on customers. We always focus on getting new customers in the door and retaining customers, and that is important. But if you do not have the team and the team retention in place, then you're never really going to be able to compound the growth and the learnings that you have in the business month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year. So as I mentioned, if you want to check out both of those tools, the recruiting and the retention, right? If you want to use one or the other, link is down below in the description. Go down below, click that link, learn more about what those tools can actually do for your business. Sign up for the waitlist if we're still in waitlist. And if you sign up, I'll reach out personally, help you get set up. We can jump on a 15-minute demo so I can show you exactly how it will work for your company and your team specifically, answer any questions that you have. And if you're watching this in the future and we're already live with these platforms, then also check them out. And yeah, looking forward to getting you on board. I hope this was helpful. I hope this, AI and HR perspectives are helpful. And let me know if you want more content like this by commenting down below and also hitting the subscribe button to stay tuned for future videos. That is it for this one. I'll see you in the next one.